Welcome back to Third Phase of Moon. Blake Cousins, we've got the special again for you. UFO sightings on the rise. Take a look at this.
Dog, are you seeing this?
This video has been making the rounds on the internet, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. It's blowing up. People are asking the big question, is this real? Three saucer-shaped craft in silhouette chased by F-18 Raptor jets. What are we looking at? Something is extraordinary, or is there something fishy here? In my opinion, this is looking too good to be true. So we did some research, and just moments ago we found a little bit more about the person who posted this. But it's interesting that we have major YouTube channels right now putting this up and saying that this is the real smoking gun footage. Again, we're looking at this and you can kind of tell that something is just a little off. Brent, your thoughts? Again, just seeing this as it came in today, and it's just like breaking the internet. People are really excited about this. Again, looking at us and looking at Third Phase of Moon, we could find out exactly if it's CGI. But here's the person, Iceman, the person that created this. He's got a pretty good YouTube channel. He's really got great techniques on creating these effects. Here's one, the Millennium Falcon being escorted by X-Wings. Absolutely. Look, he admits that it's filmed with digital combat simulator. So I guess this is a no story. If you see this and people are passing it off, just be aware that it's not real. But we've got more footage. Watch this. Captured over the skies of London. What the heck is going on? Some people might say there's an invasion. Again, we don't have the answers at the moment, but we are looking at something authentic. Is this some kind of major drone display or Chinese lanterns in the rain? It just seems a little off if you're going to be putting up Chinese lanterns during a rain storm here. But then again, flying drones in the rain, they're pretty water resistant, but I'm still not seeing exactly what's keeping these things up in the sky. Brent, what's your thoughts here? Yeah, she's stunned. She doesn't know what it is. Maybe there was an event. We just don't know. But again, we're posting it and we're letting everybody else decide what's going on here. Hopefully we'll have some answers tomorrow, but we wanted to share this exclusive interview that we had with the constitutional lawyer. You may have heard of him, Daniel Sheehan. He's behind the scenes in the UAP. He's Lou Elizondo's lawyer, and he's been in this field for quite some time. So we wanted to share this recent interview we conducted with Mr. Sheehan in Washington, D.C. earlier this month, and we're going to bring it to you exclusive. Brent, what's your make on what we're about to hear here? Yeah, it kind of breaks down everything in regards to the Constitution and what we have as power, the people, to basically infiltrate and break the information open through law. So it's interesting. She has a lot to say. It's pretty cool meeting him in person. Absolutely. We've known of Sheehan and his close proximity to Lou Elizondo, but it's always interesting to hear just the other side of things. Here, listen up.
The Constitution was written in 1789 when it set up the three branches of the offices. The Bill of Rights didn't get put in until 1791. But the key to understand is that the federal government, when it was set up, was intentionally being set up to be a government of very limited powers. That it was understood that the states still remained the primary sovereigns, but they set up a federal government to facilitate interstate commerce and a lot of other things, weights and measures, and it was a very limited government. In fact, as constituted, literally, the government was constituted without any authority to act in the field of infringing anybody's free speech, infringing anybody's freedom of the press, freedom of religion, all of these things that were understood to be possessed by the people. They just were not constituted with any authority to do anything about that. So the president doesn't have the authority to be, in the entire executive branch that exists under him doesn't have the authority to be entering into treaties or special relationships with foreign entities, etc. On their own. They can take initiative. So the question is, how long has the executive branch been taking the initiative to theoretically establish relationship with whatever this non-human intelligence is that they assume is behind the UFOs? This is setting aside entirely the question of whether they've back engineered any of them. That they're assuming that he has the authority to defend the United States against military attack. But so the question is, does the president have the authority to try to figure out, or the people under him, that is the Pentagon, the military, the Secretary of Defense, and all these other offices under the executive branch, do they have the authority to try to sequester for themselves a certain foreign technology in order to try to develop a weapons system that they can use against their domestic adversaries, like Russia and China, or whether it's Germany or whether it's Iran, whoever the latest enemy of the month is that a national security state perceives itself as having. But that is what's happening. And so obviously the executive branch is deciding that it has the authority to make these kind of decisions with regard to sequestering and maintaining secrecy around this particular technology. The question arises is, what happens if they're refusing to brief the president about it? If presidents are coming into office and they aren't briefed about it, if the Secretary of Defense, who is picked by the president and ratified by the Senate, isn't being briefed about it, who is it that's in charge here? What about all the hundreds of other people, thousands of other people who have information about this? People who have in fact been in positions, for example, to theoretically recover some of these craft. If they're part of crash retrieval programs, etc., that they're inside the military, but if the military hasn't instructed them to come forward and talk about it, and they don't dare do it, how are we going to get this done? So that I think there needs to be very aggressive civilian oversight about this. We're talking about establishing our relationship with an extraterrestrial civilization that's going to affect our entire human family for 10,000 years. And we can't have some rogue operation that isn't even under the supervision of our constitutional government, be making these decisions. If there is some sort of a private entity, corporate entity, financial entity, whatever it is that may be in possession of the knowledge about these UFOs, private industry, the Lockheed Martin, private corporations, these people are all subject to potential prosecution and civil lawsuits. That they don't have sovereign immunity, and they don't have any authority to be making decisions like this. So that what we're looking at right now is a tension between the Congress of the United States and purportedly the executive branch, the Secretary of Defense, the Director of National Intelligence, all of whom work for the president. Really, they work in the stead of the president. Now, this opens on to this question that even somebody like Dick Cheney has been talking about this unitary theory of the executive branch. What it appears that's happening here is that there is an element inside the national security state bureaucracy that is being referred to as the legacy group that has knowledge about the fact that UFOs have been coming to our planet and have crashed and been retrieved and are being attempted to be back engineered, etc. That information, if it's being withheld from the president, being withheld from the vice president, being withheld from the Secretary of Defense, being withheld from the Director of National Intelligence, being withheld from Secretary of State, that would be a renegade operation. And that's an operation that is not protected by the Constitution. They're not shielded by sovereign immunity. And the question is, what's going to be done about these people? Congress is weighing in now to demand that they be given the information. If the information resides within any of the military services, if it resides within the defense agencies, if it resides within any of the American intelligence agencies, and if it resides in any of the defense contractors, that they've got to turn this information over. The question is, who's going to enforce that? You know, what are the protocols going to be? Because it looks like Sean Kirkpatrick, who's been designated as the head of this by the Secretary of Defense, is basically sitting in his office waiting for somebody to come through the door. And if they don't come through the door, he's basically saying, well, that's somebody else's worry. I'm just going to sit here, and if somebody wants to come forward and talk about it, I'll listen. Okay, but that I think it needs to be much more aggressive. They need to be much more forward-leaning. They've got the obligation to go get this information and extract this information. Now, those questions are extremely important, but additionally importantly, what about all the hundreds of other people, thousands of other people who have information about this? People who have in fact been in positions, for example, to theoretically recover some of these craft. You know, if they're part of crash retrieval programs, et cetera, that they're inside the military, but if the military hasn't instructed them to come forward and talk about it, and they don't dare do it, how are we going to get this done? You know, so that I think there needs to be very aggressive civilian oversight about this. So I think that we've set up a new paradigm project inside our Romero Institute. Our Romero Institute is the one that did the major litigation against the Iran-Contra off-the-shelf enterprise. You know, I did the Pentagon Papers case for the New York Times. You know, we did the Karen Silkwood case that tracked down the people that killed Karen Silkwood. You know, we've done these investigations as citizens groups when the government was supposed to have done those things. Okay, so that what we've done is we've set up a 501c3 public interest new paradigm project to do this investigation, and so that we're engaged in that process now. I'm being scheduled, I think, to meet with Sean Kirkpatrick to have this discussion with him, because I want to offer our services as a public interest organization to bring forward witnesses for him and for that whole project. If they don't interview them and they don't do anything about what the people tell them about, then we're going to have to do something. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. And I know that the Disclosure Project, for 20 years, I've been the legal counsel for the Disclosure Project. And I represent Lou Elizondo, as people know now, who was the director of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Project inside the Pentagon. I represented Dr. John Mack when he had his confrontation with Harvard University. I was special legal counsel to the investigation that was conducted under Jimmy Carter by the Congressional Research Services. So, and I was at Jesuit headquarters. I was general counsel for the United States Jesuit headquarters Office of Social Ministry to try to get at this information for the churches to deal with. So I've been at this now for 40 years, and I intend to stay after this stuff until we get it, and we figure out what to do about this. Part of my job is to make sure that the Constitution is obeyed here. It's an important juridical tool that we have to extract this information and get it into the hands of the citizenry, so we can decide as a democracy what we're going to do about this. Because we're talking about establishing our relationship with an extraterrestrial civilization that's going to affect our entire human family for 10,000 years. And you know, we can't have some rogue operation that isn't even under the supervision of our constitutional government, be making these decisions, and figuring out that they're going to engage in some kind of warfare with them or making guesses about what their intentions are. This is outrageous, So I intend to do what I've been doing for 50 years, as the co-founder of the Harvard Civil Rights Law Review, is to enforce the Constitution, to make sure that it's obeyed, and to make sure that our laws are followed, and that the system of government that we've set up in a democracy is adhered to. That's my job.
Well, there it is, the exclusive interview with Mr. Daniel Sheehan in regards to the Constitution, the laws. How is it all going to break down for these whistleblowers to come forward constitutionally without any ramifications of this tactic that it seems to be happening right now with these whistleblowers being gaslit? Right now, Dr. Greer recently exposed to the world incredible people that are really brave coming forward with their information, but some of the tactics being used against some of these individuals are pretty harsh. People's families are being attacked. This information is a national security topic, the UFO phenomenon. As you've seen the chess maneuvers being done by the major media and how they're allocating the top spots on this subject, spreading a narrative of this alien threat on a constant basis. Well, there are other people on the other side, as we at Third Phase Moon believe that if there's a threat, these things are most likely man-made UAPs, not UFOs, not something coming from another cosmos, another galaxy, another, who knows, maybe another universe. All we know is that if there were a threat, they would have done something to us a long time ago. Brent, your thoughts on this Daniel Sheehan exclusive right here at Third Phase of Moon, and what he had to say?
Yeah, he broke it down pretty good. He delved in pretty deep, and he answered all the questions that we asked him. That was cool. He wasn't afraid to hide from anything. So he kind of gave us the goods. Again, what's happening here is kind of a culmination of information, maneuvers being made, and there's kind of a underlining thing that's happening right now, which I think is going to kind of explode and come to the forefront of some sort of bombshell information. And Sheehan has a little part about that, just being within the law and moving forward with that. Again, I thought the interview went pretty well.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting on how he's kind of calling out some of the big boys in politics that have ruled our country in the past, and still believing that there's something that the government needs to come forward on. But how did we proceed into that future? It's a very touchy, dicey thing. All we know right here at Third Phase Moon, we're bringing you the UFO evidence as it comes in. We're dealing with the civilians, the public, not the military. If anybody want to have any military people come forward, that's not a problem. But we're also which we have. We're bringing in all kinds of military eyewitnesses, firsthand, not secondhand like Mr. Grush, but firsthand eyewitness to the phenomenon. So don't forget that. Remember, when an eyewitness comes forward with video and testimony, it really doesn't get much better than that. So again, I want to urge everybody, go take a look at our latest documentary, UFO Endgame to Disclosure. It's available right now worldwide, Amazon, iTunes. Tell your friends, take a look at it as well, and you might want to catch up with it if you haven't seen it. UFO Endgame to Disclosure. We went across DC and talked to the people in regards to this cover-up. It's real. It's happening. They don't want you to know the truth, but we're here to find it together. So everybody, keep your eyes on the skies, be safe, and don't forget, watch UFO Endgame to Disclosure right now. We'll see you next time.
It's a mind-blowing situation. For the public, it's like, oh, a conspiracy theory, it's entertaining. But if you're actually in a responsible position and you find out that there's a whole secret government program that you don't know about, it's a shock.
This report comes from a shadowy Pentagon department that was shut down in 2012.
The disclosure movement has been hijacked by people parroting the narrative and the script being written by these black projects. I would say 90+% of everything that's going to come out is false.
The most widely seen UFO right now is not alien, it's actually ours.
It's a great cover story for all kinds of criminal activities. Blame it on the aliens, right?
If we are being visited by interdimensional beings, we should know about it.
This has the big disadvantage of the truth being much more unbelievable than the fiction.
It's the crash retrievals that are the Rosetta Stone for solving the UFO cover-up.
The implications of this is the difference between extinction level civilization versus one that's going to take off to the stars.
Oh, what the hell?